Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Ryan and Rush Show. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, none other than Jeff Hostetler. Jeff and I sit down and we talk about his life, his upbringing, his football career, and much more. An important note I want to make about this episode before you begin is we did it at the Resource Center, the Jeff Hostetler Resource Center at the top floor of the Children's Hospital here in Morgantown, West Virginia. What's awesome about this top floor is it looks like a locker room. You can see that we have the football stadium in the back. But most importantly, it's an area where children and their families can go and relax. Children that have everyday stresses that most adults don't even have. Throughout the episode, you might hear the occasional door open or some background chatter or children just walking around to stretch out their legs from being in a hospital bed. I was fortunate enough to do the interview from this location, and even though that you may hear this background noise, I was in their territory. I was where these children face issues that I can't even imagine facing. So a couple notes I want to make is one, I do apologize for any background noise, but obviously I was in their territory, and I'm so thankful that they were allowed me to interview Jeff there. In addition, please, if you're able to donate to the Hostetler Foundation, which does so much incredible work for these children at the Children's Hospital, please do so. Their information is below in this description. And what would mean a lot to the Ryan and Rush Show is if you're able to subscribe. We are so close to monetizing and on our way to getting up there where we would like to be and making this our full-time job. So please, if you have a chance, give us the subscribe button, share when you can, and I really hope you enjoyed this interview. Again, thank you so much for all your support. And again, thank you to Jeff Hostetler for doing this interview. Have a great day, everyone. And we are live with Mr. Famous, Mr. 2 Super Bowl rings right here, a staple in the Morgantown community, the West Virginia community, a crazy life story. Mr. Jeff Hostetler, or should I call you William? First question is, why don't you use the name William?
Well, actually, I had to get it changed because of 9/11 when everything, I always grew up William Jeffrey Hostetler, but I always used Jeff. Oh. And as I was getting older, everything that I signed was W. Jeffrey because I always went by Jeff. And so once 9/11 happened, everything had to get official. And so I couldn't go back to using just William, and people didn't know me as William or Bill or anything like that. So I had to actually change my name to W space Jeffrey. And that's what I am. So lots of times I get W instead of William.
Yeah, that's funny because I saw that. I was looking up information. I'm like, William. Yeah. I'm like, oh, he never uses that. But it's funny how names can change. And speaking of that, is with names and family and legacy is you come from I know it's one of the first, maybe the first Amish settlers. You're a direct descendant. You grew up Mennonite. You grew up on a farm. Talk about especially a culture that's not, understood by many. What was it like growing up Mennonite, especially on a farm?
So Mennonite, we actually have our roots over in Switzerland. And in the 1600s, and is first that we can kind of go back and kind of see who we actually came from. And we were persecuted for our religion, and we made the trip to the U.S., to the United States. It was in the 1700s, I think 1738 on the Charming Nancy, a boat that came across, and that's where our roots started from. And growing up as a Mennonite, I'm one of 7 kids, grew up on a dairy farm. We had 18,000 chickens, lots of work before school, lots of work after school and practice, but I wouldn't change it for anything. It taught me a lot about hard work, and it taught me the highs and lows of life and the struggles that come with it. And but it also gave me a strong rock to base all my life on, my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so being one of 7 kids, you learn to deal with a lot of things. And growing up on a farm, you learn to deal with a lot of things. And growing up Mennonite, it's a Bible-based and just a real conservative religion, Christian religion. And it was one of those things that I learned a lot of our Bible stories and things like that, but it gave me a great base.
I totally get that. So something a lot of people don't know about me is I actually grew up in the Mormon faith, and another faith that's misunderstood, another faith that was persecuted in America. That's how they ended up all the way out in Utah. Another thing I'm really excited about, and we'll definitely get into the sports here, because I think it's very important that your Mennonite foundation is what led to a lot of the adversity later in your career, whether it was going from Penn State to West Virginia, or basically in a way being on the bench for 6.5 years before you got this bad boy right here. And that's why quick side note is I'm so excited about, because my parents and brother went to BYU and now they're joining the Big 12, so we got this nice family rivalry going on. Really excited about that. So definitely get where you're very thankful, for that upbringing. I'm very thankful for that upbringing as well. But kind of talking about that upbringing, and one big, your first, I guess, adverse event that happened is you were, I think, 8 years old, and you woke up and the ceiling was glowing. Mm-hmm. And I think your barn was on fire, correct? Yeah. And you went outside and talk about kind of just being 8 and that being like the first, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, well, 8 years old, and it was early one morning, and again, my mom woke us all up screaming, mm-hmm. and the ceiling was all bright colors, and we originally thought the house was on fire, but here it was our barn. And you talk about a tough situation for a farmer. Weeks before, my dad had been struggling with some kind of illness that they could not define. They weren't able to figure out what it was, and they ended up thinking that it might have been I think at the time, the Hong Kong flu. He was dizzy, he couldn't stay upright, was sick. Well, this is, as a farmer, you can't be sick. There's no off days. And with dairy cows and hay and crops and things like that. And so he was unable, this was right during the middle of hay season, unable to go out and get the hay in and that. And the Mennonite Foundation came with a group of farmers and men and women. They provided us food. They put in 3,000 bales of hay for us, which we were unable to do. And then a couple weeks later, that full barn of hay with our cows and everything in it burned down. And as an 8-year-old, you have no idea mm-hmm. what your parents are going through. You have no idea what the difficulties in life are, which is how it should be. And but by example, I saw my dad just plug away, just start and just plug away, and never miss a beat. Mom and Dad, they just kept to the grindstone. We never were worried about what we were going to eat. We were never worried about what we were going to wear, and that's a huge tribute to my mom and dad and their faith mm-hmm. and what they're made of.
Yeah, the community as a whole too.
Yeah.
It's definitely. It shows, religion can definitely be one thing, but being part of just the community that religion can provide, it's a very undervalued, and I think it's something that today is a lot of people are missing in their lives. So, but speaking of community, so, the Mennonite faith, for what I know, is obviously very conservative, very, your education is highly valued, your chores, everything that is supposed to get done needs to get done. But I know you had 2 older brothers that were already playing football. Was there, I guess, any pushback in the culture or from your parents, anything like that to play football? Or was it encouraged, like, yeah, as long as you get your stuff done, let's, keep doing more.
Yes.
Hello, Rambling Rush here, and we'll take you back to your episode momentarily. The Ryan and Rush Show is on its way to monetization, and we need your help. Please subscribe to our show if you haven't yet, and let your friends know all about it. The Ryan and Rush Show is your source for West Virginia sports, and our goal is to make this our full-time job and to give you the best news and analysis available. Again, that's the Ryan and Rush Show. Please subscribe today and share with all your friends. Now back to the episode.
So, growing up Mennonite on Sundays, we went to church Wednesday nights and Sundays, Sunday mornings, Sunday nights. And so any activities on Wednesday were, they were prohibited. My two older brothers basically, broke the cycle for us. They opened up a whole realm of possibilities for the rest of, for my younger brother and I and my sisters. So my dad was unable to play, softball or baseball because of, the work on the farm, and that couldn't be compromised. He had to be there to be able to do those things. And so, growing up with dairy cows and 18,000 chickens, we had lots to do. But my dad missed that, and he was going to make sure that, his boys were able to enjoy the ability to go out and play sports competitively. And little did we know at that time that there will be a lot of success, for my brothers and myself in the sports arena. And it was something I think our upbringing enabled us to be mentally tough. And I think in sports, in any athletic contests, the mental part of it is the part that separates you from a lot of different other athletes, because there are a lot of talented athletic guys out there, men and women, but it's the ones that can handle the pressure, the ones that can handle the adversity, I think, that continue to take the next step.
Yeah, so I'm got my bachelor's degree in sport and exercise psychology from CPAS just down the road here. I think it's a different college, applied physical science, whatever it is now. And I remember telling people kind of when I was going through this program, like, yeah, I'm getting my degree in sports psychology, and they're like, what's that? Is I think what you're talking about, how important having that mental edge is, and overcoming adversities, overcoming and we're going to talk about a lot more that you've gone through, but overcoming, the farm burning down, overcoming and being able to be resilient and get back on your feet is, you could have the physical body of a god, but if you have a mind of a weak person, you're not going to get too far in life. And that kind of leads us to this next thing is your senior year of high school. The starting tailback goes down, right? So they ask you to come play tailback. You're already a great linebacker, and I guess your younger brother comes in to play quarterback. Little did we know that that's going to lead to you being Taysom Hill before Taysom Hill, going and playing special teams and blocking punts and playing wide receiver, kind of how you got the first ring right here. But talk about kind of what went into that selfless decision, because this is your senior year. You could be like, no, like I'm trying to go to Penn State. I'm trying to even go to any college and start for them. But I'll go play tailback.
Yeah, I think back at it and I try to apply that to today, and there's no way. There's no way that the parents or the athlete themselves would allow their coach to make a decision like that for you, or even ask you to do that. But back then it was, what can I do to help our team? What can I do to put wins on the board? And really didn't think about the impact it would have on me as far as being recruited to go into college. And so for me, I was a parade All-American as a linebacker going into my senior year of high school. And after our first game, we didn't really have a tailback, and so coach asked me if I'd play tailback. And I thought, well, yeah, I'll do it. And I did that, and in the end, it gave me a lot of experience in something that I maybe never had an opportunity to do. It gave me a different perspective of the quarterback spot and how things are impacted, and just a whole different view of things that I don't think you can get if I just had stayed behind center. And so, it was one of those decisions I made. I loved doing it. It helped me in my career down the road, because it gave me the ability to figure out how to run the football, how to move around, the agility part of it, just a different view. And as a quarterback, the better perspective you have for all of your players, for the guys that are surrounding you, it gives you a whole lot better feel for managing that team.
One of my favorite college football teams of all time is the 2019 LSU team. And there's debate that might be the greatest college football team ever. And the reason I love that team so much, obviously, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, amazing players. They were a blast to watch. But Coach O, they were like, we will play anyone, anywhere, anytime. Just let us know. And similar to you from the player perspective, you're the undervalued utility player, but Coach, I will play any position, anywhere, at any time. Just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And I think when you go on to be the successful quarterback, that builds up that time. One, you see the field in different ways that you've never seen before, but also you build up that leadership. You build up that, hey, I'm selfless. I'll put the team on my back. I'll go line up there. I'll go line up there. In addition to seeing the field differently, how did it help with building your leadership skills for being a quarterback?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that you never really even think about, and I never really thought about, is I was just trying to get on the field, and I wanted to contribute. There's nothing, everybody would say, oh, what a great job, being a backup quarterback. You don't have the pressure, you don't get on the field, you don't get banged up, you don't do anything. Hey, the reason you got there had nothing to do with being complacent of being number two, sitting and watching a game. That's not how you got to where you got. You're competitive. You want to be out on the field. And so, for my selfishness part, I wanted to just get out on the field, and whatever I could do to get out there, I was going to do it. The most valuable thing that came out of that wasn't the value for me as far as my abilities on the field. It was the impact that it had on my teammates. And I didn't really know that impact until into my 7th year, when Sims goes down. We lost 3 out of 4 games. We started out, I think, 9-0. Lost 3 out of the next 4 games. The wheels had come off the cart. Everybody jumped off the bandwagon. Being in New York, it was chaos. All right, and then Sims goes down, and now it's finished. We're done. We can't, we've got a backup quarterback that's really never played, and the team's already losing 3 out of 4. Their hopes of making it into the playoffs or the Super Bowl are 0. Well, what people didn't realize was that, and I didn't realize until that moment happened, was those guys that surrounded me. I mean, they rallied around me. And they rallied around me because they saw me for 6.5 years persevere through not being able to play. But they saw me also put the work in. They saw someone that wanted to do everything he could to get out on the field, and that had a huge impact on my teammates. And I didn't know that until I stepped out onto the field during that next 5 games, and having won the Super Bowl, being the last one, was how those guys rallied around and how they had faith in me, and they were excited for the opportunity that I had. And they were going to do everything they could to help me be successful, and especially defensively. I mean, especially those guys, because they faced me every day in practice. And to have them and to know that they had my back, and that they had this huge belief and faith in me that we were going to change the tide here, and we were going to do things that people didn't think that we were going to be able to do. And so that was the biggest positive, I think, for me that came out of 6.5 years and trying to get out on the field and blocking a punt, running the ball and catching a pass before I ever threw one in the NFL. So there's not very many, there isn't an NFL Super Bowl winning quarterback that can say that. And I'm proud of that. But the things I learned during that time and the experience that I had, prepared me for things down the road, even outside of football.
Taysom Hill before Taysom Hill. I'm telling you.
that was a long Jenkins, I think. Jennings. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He was from Miami, and he was the guy, the Taysom Hill of my time.
Yeah.
So I thought about that lots of times, but I always went back to that wanting to play quarterback.
Yeah. So you talk about that, obviously the famous 1990 Giants season. That season, Coach Bill Parcells, one of the best coaches of all time, coaching tree, and you bring up the Giants defense led by my favorite coach, Coach Bill Belichick. We'll definitely talk about Bill here a little later on, but he had you come and play in a game, and then he yanks you. And what's funny is, Jeff, it seems like everything that with doing the research on your life and seeing kind of how things started off with being young or kind of through college ended up showing itself again kind of in a different way, but the same way later on. So let's take a step back. Is you decide to go to Penn State, follow your two older brothers there. And Joe Paterno kind of does some similar stuff to you that Bill Parcells did. The whole, I think you played a good little bit your freshman year. Sophomore year comes around, you play 2 games, go to the bench, then you come back on for a game, and then you keep getting promised all this playing time. And then, well, obviously it doesn't work out. You end up here. But Coach Paterno doing this, playing these mind games with you, how did that help you build this mental resiliency, and what kind of were you going through at that time?
Well, the mental resiliency, the intestinal fortitude, that's the stuff that you can only build by going through difficult times. Mm-hmm. And
baptism by fire.
Yeah, and having grown up on a farm, you saw it every day. Watching my dad, I saw it every day. And what was his reaction? How did he react? Watching mom and dad raise all 7 of us, and through all the difficulties, what did they do? They never gave up. They kept on going. And so doing those things, I would go to Penn State, and I start I play in probably 5 or 6 games as a freshman, just mop up times, but nobody did that at that time, and I wanted to play quarterback, and so I come in my sophomore year. We have a competition. I win the competition, and the week of our first game, we have a live drill, and I'm not allowed to come out of the pocket, and a guy rolls up on top of me. Yeah, I was forced to stay in the pocket. They didn't want me scrambling, and
which is what you do.
Yeah, and rolled over on top of me, sprained my ankle, just blew up. I was in the hospital for I think 2 or 3 days, trying to get the swelling down, and Paterno came in and said, you won the job, but because of your ankle, we're going to name the other guy the starting quarterback. And I said, no, I'll be there. I'll be there. And I was able to make it there. Played and started the first 2 games. We won. Started the 3rd game against Nebraska. We ended up losing that game, and then he came in and told me that he was going to make a change. And from that point on, again, it was a struggle. How do you handle this? What do you want to do? And I've learned that. My dad once told me that you never let somebody else determine your future, okay? No matter where you're at, okay? No matter what. So I was never going to allow Joe Paterno to control my future. If I wasn't going to play there, and I had no hope, and I wanted to play quarterback, I could have started as a freshman as a linebacker at Penn State. But I wanted to go the quarterback route. And I'm not quite sure why I wanted to do that instead of hitting people, getting hit. But that's the direction I wanted in. And so, my decision had to be to leave a university that I grew up with. I mean, that was part of our family. I have a brother-in-law that played there. My sisters, one of them went there. My sister-in-laws went there. 3 brothers went there. 2 of them played football. And one of them played baseball. So there was a lot of connections there. And to make that move and leave and go somewhere else was really difficult, but I was prepared for it. And I grew up in a family that was a real strong Christian family, and my mom was the glue that kept us all together. And her faith, her prayers for her kids, and that, I think that gave me the strength to continue to go, because I knew God had a plan for me. I just didn't know exactly what that was.
Yeah, I really like what you said, is don't let one person determine your life, determine the outcome. Steve Harvey, native West Virginian, said, he's like, if you have big dreams, don't tell them to small people. Yeah. And it's very, very similar there. Let me just ask you, is what do you, not as a coach, we all know he's a great coach, but obviously controversy, over just 10 years ago, for obvious reasons, with Joe Paterno. You've been inside that locker room. 1, what do you think of Joe Paterno? And 2 is, how should he be honored, if he should even be honored at all? if that makes sense.
Well, I won't get into, what other people should do or how he should be viewed or anything like that. On the positive side of him, he ran a program that that had an amazing impact on a large number of young men. And that's a positive.
Absolutely.
I mean, the men that came out of that university under his tutelage have done some amazing things. And so, to get into the rest of it, I don't know. I never saw it when I was there.
Sure.
And I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I just know that there were a lot of good things that were done. And, you can focus on the good things. You can focus on the bad things. That's for you to decide.
It's a personal,
so,
yeah. Totally understand that. So your family sits down with Joe Paterno, says, hey, like, I want to be a starter. I want to be a starting quarterback, and, decide kind of that mutual parting of the ways. How was your recruitment process to West Virginia? What got you here to Morgantown?
The thing that got me here to Morgantown was really one of my older brothers, my older brother Doug. He had been traveling down business-wise and came through a bunch of different times. He almost went to West Virginia his first time around. And my first recruiting trip, I never even thought about visiting. And, I went to Notre Dame. I was highly recruited, could have gone anywhere I wanted. But I knew I was going to Penn State. And most people knew I was going to Penn State. But the only reason I came down was my older brother, Doug, just said, hey, you need to go down. They've got a new coach, got a new stadium. And, I knew from their playing times that when they played West Virginia, it was always the fans were amazing. It was just a great game, a great atmosphere. And so I thought, okay, I'll come down. And that's when I met Coach Nealon, and that's where the honesty part of it, the brutal honesty, the openness, the matter of fact, this is how it is, this is what I see, this is what you need to do, how his players viewed him. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for a head coach that was going to tell me exactly where I stood, why I stood there, and what I needed to do in order to get out on the field.
Well, I think you were, I guess NIL back then wasn't, of course, money, but the coach's daughter, right? Is that what they did? They offer, like, hey, I can't give you money, but hey, here's my daughter if it gets you.
Yeah, well, he didn't offer that because there's no way he could offer his daughter because she'd had a say in that. But yeah, she at the time didn't have an impact on me coming. But for sure, she had an impact when I was here.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. It's funny how that all works out.
Yeah, it took a lot of heat, a lot of razzing, a lot of abuse from my teammates about dating the head coach's daughter.
There you go. Coach Nealon's like, all right, we're playing Smash the Dummy. Believe it or not, we're doing it with the starting quarterback. I'll line up right over there. Yeah. That's great. So you have to sit out the 81 season, obviously, because it's not the transfer portal days that just kicked in. So you play for the Mountaineers in 82, 83. That 82 season starts off with a bang, right? That's when you beat Oklahoma, the number 7 ranked Oklahoma at Oklahoma, which very hard to do. Is that you think the greatest college game you played in, or your most favorite game, or where does that rank on your list?
Well, it ranks up there just because that's my first game as a Mountaineer.
Sure.
And, you want to come out and you want to prove yourself. You're a transfer. And so, you want to be successful. We go out there, we're supposed to kill their horse. The one that's pulling the schooner around there
Boomer Sooner.
Yeah, he's going to die because of heat exhaustion, because he's going to be running around the field so much because they're going to be scoring so much on us. And so, we had no chance. And to go out there in a sea of red, because it was red all over. It was 113 on the field. It was, a hostile environment, but, for us to go out and start out, and we start out, we're down 14-0, I think. But everybody on the sideline all has the same feeling. Hey, we can do this. We can play with these guys. And then we put up 20 right before half real quickly, and it was game on. And to have won that game coming out of the blocks was pretty special. And then we go from there. We go to Maryland. We beat
Boomer.
Maryland. Yeah.
Boomer Esiason.
And back then our schedule. I mean, we had teams that were powerful football teams, and that schedule was really difficult. And to be able to be successful with that, with a new program coming in, and without the athletes that these other teams have. Okay, when I came out of Penn State, I don't know. There were very few guys here at West Virginia that could have cracked the second team on some of the on that Penn State team, and that has nothing to do. It's just Penn State could recruit nationwide.
Yeah.
All right, and West Virginia was just trying to start their program, and so to do what Coach Nealon did my first 2 years here with the talent that we had. Was absolutely amazing. And that's what I think a head coach is, a successful head coach is. It's not that he doesn't have the players to fit into his box of how you're going to coach. It's he's going to fit his coaching and his type of program with the players that he has. And he did an amazing job. He took a lot of guys and put a lot of faith in them, and that turned around, and these guys started to have some faith in each other and themselves, and he got a lot out of us.
I know it wasn't obviously the results you wanted, but what was it like playing your former team, Penn State, twice?
It was, I wanted to beat them. I wanted to tear them up, and I didn't have that opportunity. It never worked out that way. But again, that's something that you learn to live with. You go out. If you can walk off that field at the end of the day having given your best, that's all you can ask. And that's what I learned. You're not. You can work your butt off. You can put all the time in and all that, and still not be successful. Yeah. And that's a hard lesson to learn. That sometimes all that hard work doesn't mean that you are going to be successful. But I'm telling you what, you're going to put yourself in the best position to possibly be successful. And that's what you want to do.
I think it goes into kind of talking about God's plan is just sometimes what's the quote is there's 3 answers to a prayer. It's either yes, you're not ready, or I have something else in mind for you. And I think those are all 3 just great just things to think about and how life, and clearly, in a situation like that, you want to beat the heck out of them, and you don't, but it still keeps that hunger alive, because you still have a, full career left in the NFL to go. Even though you didn't unfortunately beat Penn State, you did snap I think it was a 7-year losing streak against Pitt. Yeah. That would probably felt pretty special.
That felt really good, because that was sitting right over here.
Yeah.
And that stadium was wild. It was packed. The sidelines were packed. And to take a 90-yard drive at the end of the game and take it down the field against the number 1 defense in the country and against Pitt here at home, and then to be able to run a bootleg and take it in for the score, and just seeing that place go wild was pretty special. We let one slip away the year before against a team that had, I think, 9 or 10 draft picks on, and we had them, and we just came up short. We opened the door and allowed them back in. And this the following year was the year that we decided, hey, we can't let them back in the door. We owe them one, and to be able to do it in that fashion was pretty special.
That's cool. That is so cool. Especially, that's a solid note to end on. You finished your career at West Virginia. I'm pretty sure you beat Kentucky, correct, in the bowl game, or was that the year before?
You're going back a ways. So,
sorry,
but I think that's
you've only been hit in the head a couple times, right? So,
but I think that's what it was.
And then, but what I thought was pretty cool, and I didn't even know this existed because I got just continued. You played in like the senior type of bowls. You played in the Hula Bowl, and then you also played in the Japan Bowl.
Yep.
What was it like playing in the Japan Bowl?
It was awesome. And the reason I went to the Japan Bowl again was growing up. Our family, we used to bring a lot of kids into our family. We brought a couple kids in from New York, and they would spend time on the farm with us. We brought kids in from Holland. We brought kids in from Japan. So Masako, she came and stayed with us from Japan, and when she left, this was when I was in high school. She said, if you ever get an opportunity to come see me in Japan, please come. And so, when that bowl game popped up and they asked me to go, I just said, I'm going because I want to go see Masako, who I met in Japan, and I met her family. I stayed, went to dinner at her house with her family. They made us shrimp tempura. It was amazing. And, it was, again, a relationship that was formed because of my mom and dad's beliefs as far as trying to open our family to others. And, it was a full circle and something I really enjoyed.
Well, I think that's been the story of your life. Full circle is going through, or things early, and then it turns up in your playing career with all the adversities. And now, we're in this beautiful resource center that's absolutely incredible. I feel like I'm in this locker room right now. I actually feel like part of the experience. It's so cool that kids get the opportunity to come up there, the field in the back. I'm like a kid in the candy shop right now. So it's awesome how you're able to do all of that. You finished your career at West Virginia, you finished the Japan Bowl. You're the number 2 rated quarterback. You're supposed to get picked in the first round. You don't get picked till, round 3rd, I think the 59th pick. Going back to the whole, what is going on here type of thing, what is going through your mind when you're just seeing kind of slipping down the board?
Yeah, it was a tough day. Yeah. It was a really tough day. And, you're wondering why, what's going on. And, the year before there were 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. It's one of those things that you wonder, how can it be happening? But it happens every draft day. There are these things that go on, and only a certain number of teams need quarterbacks. And, it's one of those things you just don't understand. And, when I was drafted and got a phone call from the Giants, I had no idea about the Giants as far as anything to do with them, what their quarterback situation was, anything like that. And little did I know that I'd never step out on the field, even during preseason my first year. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, Lord, what in the world am I doing here? Why is this going like this? Why has it been such a difficult process? And there were things to be learned, things to be learned that only could be learned through adversity and through patience, through perseverance. And, those things all prepared me for 6.5 years later. They prepared me for my family, my kids, the struggles that my kids had gone through. So all those things, I look back at and I said, would I ever change it? And no, because they prepared me to be in the position that I'm in now. I probably wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't be involved in our children's hospital like I am if I hadn't gone through those things.
Yeah. Well, because let's fast forward to that 1990, the famous season. The first Super Bowl we talked about is you were kind of that special teamer. You were blocking punts. You were saying, hey, I'll be a wide receiver. I'll do all that things. But, you still waited for your opportunity. You sat behind Phil Simms. Phil Simms, first is you tell your wife, you're like, hey, I think this is it for me. I think I'm going to retire after this year. We'll go back to Morgantown. We'll figure things out. But then that plan, the God's plan, goes from, hey, not yet, to yes, This is time. Phil Simms goes down with an injury, which you didn't think was a big deal at the time, but of course it ended up being. You come in, and as you're coming in, what's going through your mind?
Well, I'll give you a little run up to that. So This is my 7th year in the NFL, and I had maybe 2 starts before that, all right? And one of them was doing real well. First half, have a touchdown pass. We're down in New Orleans, and right as I'm walking out the second half, Parcells tells me that he's going to pull me and put Jeff Rutledge in, and he said it has nothing to do with how you were playing. It's just a gut feeling. Gut feeling. I didn't want to hear about a gut feeling. But there was no free agency. There was no anything. I was stuck. I couldn't go anywhere. I wanted to go. I tried everything I could just to have him waive me, cut me, just so that I had an opportunity, and that didn't happen. The next time I had to start, it was we won that game. And I thought, oh, this is awesome. I get a taste of it. All right. But then nothing. And so my 7th year coming in, I have a great preseason, do really, really well. And so well that Parcells says, you deserve a chance to be playing. But I'm playing behind a guy that is playing really good football and has been injury-free since I've got there. So, I'm looking in what are my opportunities. Well, he goes down in a game against, I think, Phoenix at the time, the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And, we're down, I think, 9 points with 5 or 6 minutes to go, and orchestrate 2 drives in a row with a last-second field goal to win the game, 20-19. Guys, rally around me, were happy for me, but I knew that they knew I could play. All right, and then I think it's a week or 2 later that we're playing Dallas, and this to me was the biggest impact for me was. We're still in the game. It's in the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. Still game's undecided. Out of the blue, Parcells yells, "Hostetler, you're in." All right? Just out of the blue. Sims isn't hurt, anything like that. And so I go out, and we take the ball the whole way down the field. I score on a scramble. And he takes me back out. Sims goes back in. We win the game. All right? But my opportunity, I was prepared. We score. I score. Teammates all, and I'm thinking, I'm finally getting a chance, finally. Yeah. And then it went dead. I mean, the rest of the season, I didn't have a chance to play, and it was like, I don't know if I can handle this. And so, I'm sitting at a table with my wife, dinner table, and we just finished dinner, and I just sat there with her, and I said, "Babe, this is like the 13th week of the season," and I just said, "Babe, I'm done at the end of the year. I can't handle it anymore. I'm just done. I'm so frustrated, and I just don't ever see. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel." And so we had made that decision that at the end of the season we were going back here to West Virginia, and we were going to do. I was going to figure out something else. Mm-hmm. And that week, Phil went down, and then 5 weeks later, I was standing at a podium having just won the Super Bowl. That's God's plan. That's not my plan. My plan I had given up, but God said, wait a minute. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. And 6 weeks later, I've won the Super Bowl.
That's all. Well, because what's also going through during this time is your oldest son, Jason, working security for us back there somewhere. He has 4 heart surgeries in 11 months. So not only is this going on in your professional career, and all craziness is you're worried about your son. You want everything that's best for them. So you're doing 2 things at once. You're like trying to keep that professional brain strong. You're trying to keep that personal brain strong. I remember you quote saying, like, you look back at the Bible you had at that time, and pages were ripped up, well, not ripped up, but like worn marked up, and it's what. I guess even if you're not starting yet, was what's getting you through this practice is knowing that you have so much going on the personal side of things too. I remember you saying, I think the Myras who owned the team were very good to you as well.
Yeah, Wellington Myra, the owner, was awesome for my wife and I. So going through that, my first year, '84, I don't see the playing field. In '85, we have our firstborn. Yeah. He's born with pulmonary stenosis. He's emergency moved over into New York City for emergency surgery. Yeah. He has 4 surgeries before he's 11 months old. During that, this was right in downtown in New York City. I'm trying to practice and be in the practice field. I can't make it into the hospital during these times. Mr. Mara provided a car to take my wife in, and then after practice I would go in. It was a struggle. It was tough. Oh, yeah. '87, our second boy was born. We almost lost him at childbirth. We were within hours of losing him at childbirth. Emergency C-section. And then in 1991 we have our third son, and then in 1998, 99, he's 8 years old. And he's at a friend's house, and the parents allowed him to ride a 6-wheel gator by themselves. His friend's 9, he's 8. It flips on him. He breaks his neck. He's paralyzed from the neck down, and we're devastated. All 3 of my sons would walk in here today. All have families. I've got 3 miracles, and God has prepared me throughout my career, throughout growing up on a farm, to face adversity, how to face adversity. And you can only face adversity through, for me, it's through our faith. My mom was the glue that kept us together, and she always said that God has a plan for me, and that, you know, He's there. And that's the strength where, you know, that got me through, got me to where I'm at. And I've been really blessed. And, you know, I can go back and say this now, that all those things I've learned, I've never changed. It's taught me the things that I know, and it's allowed me to rely on God and knowing that He's got a plan for me. And I don't know what it is, but I do know that it's much greater than what I could ever have imagined.
That's incredible. That's awesome. So going back, and you had the playoffs coming up in the 1990 season. You have 3 really hard games. Obviously, you start with the Bears, then the 49ers, and then, of course, the Buffalo Bills, who are heavily favored in that game. As you're kind of just leading up to all of this, how do you keep the mindset of, you know, just one game at a time? You know, we can't win the Super Bowl in the first game, right? And then you got 3 really hard teams too. What's going on during all
first
of that?
Playoff game is Chicago against the Bears, and I can tell you, my first snap, I come out, you know, leading up to it, nobody gave us a chance. Again, you know, this quarterback with no experience, you know, coming in against the Chicago Bears, and Mike Singletary. I line up under center, look across, there he is, looking at me. And I can tell you, it was like everything got silent, and I just looked at him, and I go, wow, his eyes really are that big. And then boom, snap the ball and gone. You know, and we have a great game. I have a great game. We beat the Bears. To make our next move, we've got to go to San Francisco. And we've got to go to San Francisco to prevent them from the three-peat, Joe Montana and their whole group. Nobody gives us a chance. And, you know, compete, last game-winning drive our team down for a field goal. We kick a field goal to win the game. Time expires. We're going to the Super Bowl. Nobody thought we could do it. In fact, all the pundits said I was the weak link. And so it was a tough thing mentally to be able to handle if you read the papers, if you listened to all of them. But that was the thing. You know, I learned the mental toughness to stay away from what they don't know me. They don't know what I can do. They don't know what I'm about. And so there was something to prove. And I think our team as a whole rallied around that. There was something that we were going to prove. And, you know, then to go against Buffalo in the Super Bowl again, you know, we were big underdogs. Nobody thought we could do it. And, you know, to come back from being sacked numerous times, being sacked in the end zone for a safety, being down against a high-power offense. Again, everybody's saying, well, see, this is what we told you. But we just kept plugging away. And I can tell you, standing right before their missed field goal at the end of the game,
you weren't even standing.
I was kneeling down on the other end of the field from our bench. I was away from everybody, and I had just knelt down, and I just said, Lord, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to play, and I gave everything I could, and I was just going to, you know, kneel there and just watch, and whatever it was, I was just going to watch and take it all in. And I could still hear the thud of his foot hitting the ball. I can still see the officials no good, and I can still see everybody just running crazy. And then just remember just standing up thinking, wow, you know, 6 weeks earlier, I know what I was doing, and it's just hard to believe the plan that God had for me.
Scott Norwood misses that. Yeah. It definitely goes into, there's a great saying, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And it's well, that's definitely part of it. And something about, you know, taking one of those sacks is a lot of people don't realize, because everyone thinks about the missed field goal in that game, is, yeah, you took a sack in the end zone for a safety, but that ball was really close to, like, in a way, it was like the best safety ever, because that could have been a 5-point swing real quick.
Yeah, and it was. Lots of people say that was a game changer.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that would have put us down in a big hole that maybe we couldn't have got out of. But that was going back to the growing up on the farm and playing football with my 2 older brothers and my younger brother. It was always my younger brother Todd and I against my 2 older brothers, and they used to kick the tar out of us. And so it was. I attribute the success there to my brothers and playing with them, and them beating the tar out of us and making us tough.
That's awesome. So after the game, it's, Bill Parcells doesn't really thank you. It's, you're kind of in a sticky situation with Coach. But what's actually ironic in all of it is you're the one to return to the Giants the next season, and he's not returning to the Giants. And then the next coach names you starter over Phil Simms, and what begins kind of this yo-yo between you and Phil Simms. And then after, after I think it was the 93 season, the Giants decide not to re-sign you. You end up going to Los Angeles at the time, and then, you're part of the team when they move back to Oakland. How did you decide on going to the Raiders? Because you said, that was still the early days of free agencies and teams had rights. And
that was the first year of free agency.
It was, okay.
So, the Giants were trying to figure out whether they were going to go on a 1 year, a short-term basis with Phil or a long-term basis with me. But that was the first year of free agency, so I had the opportunity to go wherever I wanted to, too. And so the Giants brought in a new coach, Dan Reeves, and he had plans down the road that he wanted to pick his own quarterback and things like that. And so they went that direction. I went the direction with the Raiders. On my flight out to see the Raiders, I'm thinking, what am I doing? Going to the Raiders. Here's this little Mennonite farm boy going out to the Raiders.
From New York to Los Angeles.
but it was awesome. It was the greatest group of guys that I've ever played with.
That's
and
so
just
cool.
the quality of these guys, the character of these guys was mind-boggling for me. Yeah. I loved my time there. Yeah. With the NFL, it's the few guys that get the headlines, that break the rules, that cause the issues, that do things, and they're all the time making the headlines. But you've got this majority of these players that are just cream of the crop, salt of the earth guys, and that's what I found out there. I loved my time playing there. Obviously, I loved my time with the Giants. Having 2 Super Bowls and that was awesome, and I loved the guys I played with. But going out to the Raiders, it was a lot of fun. Playing on grass.
Yeah.
I bet. It was amazing. So it was a good 4 years for me.
You finally kind of had, like, similar to going to West Virginia, is now you go to the Raiders, it's kind of your choice, and it's something you settle into. What was it like playing for Al Davis?
Well, Al had a lot of say in everything, and so
really?
I game plan. He'd put plays in. He had things that you couldn't take out. He controlled practice at times. It was eye opening, but he loved his players. And at times, there were a lot of positives about that, and then there were a lot of negatives about that.
Yeah, so I was born in '93. So you're a little before my time, as they like to say. And I, was reaching out to some family and close friends and being like, hey, I'm interviewing Jeff here in a couple days. And everyone I talked to says they remember you more actually as a Raider than as a Giant. And it makes sense now. You said that it was kind of like you're more fun. You really enjoyed playing for the Raiders, salt of the earth guys. That it was the one of all the one Pro Bowl you made was when you were a Raider. And then I remember, one of the seasons, I think it was at 94, maybe, correct me obviously, is you guys start off 8-2, and then your shoulders kind of
95.
95, the year after, that's right.
Yeah, in 95 we were 8-2, and I actually playing against the Giants in New York and blew out my shoulder, and tried to play the next week. Here I have a torn rotator that's 2 inches retracted. I've got a torn labrum that's torn in numerous places, and I can't even lift my elbow to my shoulder. I tried the next week to play against Dallas. I made it maybe a quarter and a half. I had a brace on that I couldn't even raise it. And so, you think about going out and playing a professional football game under those circumstances. It's ridiculous. But all we needed to do is one more win, and we were in playoffs. And we lose 6 in a row. Missed the playoffs. I had surgery and took me all off season to recover, and got a chance to play the next year and play real well. Yeah, that was a frustrating year. But again, it goes back to the same old things. You learn to deal with the frustration. You learn to deal with the adversity.
It's kind of that weird thing that evens out, right? Is injuries sometimes is what kept you out, but like the Phil Simms injuries have also what kind of kept you in it. It's definitely that balancing act.
You always got to be prepared for it, because that's lots of times the only opportunity that you're going to get.
I've had both my labrums done, and I could barely lift a 20-pound dumbbell. I don't know how you tried to play in an NFL game and then come back the following season. It took me a year and a half to get things going, and that's when they're minimally invasive surgeries now. Never mind how they were doing in the 90s. So you're definitely one tough guy. And then you finish your time with the Raiders finishes. You go to Washington, of course. From one big city to another, you have all. And you're the backup there, and then the quarterback at the time, one of the weirdest things is he scores, headbutts the cement, and next thing you know, another injury. Oh, Jeff Hostetler's back in the game. What was going through? That is a weird situation. What was going on during that?
I went to the Redskins because I had two brothers that lived down in that area, and wanted my kids to go to school with their cousins. So it was sort of a non-football decision.
Sure.
I call those my mistake years, because I should have maybe based it a little bit more on a football decision and the opportunities that should have been there that weren't. But it was again, as you're going into a situation where you're new to a team. It's a difficult transition, and then you get thrown in, and you just try the best you can to make it happen under a new system. And it was my last 2 years of my career. So
well, kind of your last two careers. The Rams talked to you a little bit about spring ball. Has Kurt Warner reached out to you to thank you for having him be the greatest show on turf and start his playing career? You deserve a thank you from Kurt.
Well, it's kind of funny because during that time, so my son Tyler was hurt, and that was during that time. And so the two teams that asked me that showed interest in me coming and playing with them were both the two teams that made it into the Super Bowl. So it was the Rams and Tennessee. And I turned both down because I wanted to concentrate on my son and spend the time and see if we could get him back to where we wanted him to be. And so it was the best decision I ever could have made. So
it's the best decision for Kurt Warner.
No, Kurt did an amazing job. I mean, he is a phenomenal guy as well.
Absolutely. That movie on him and his life story, I would love to interview him one day. That incredible human being. Couple more, I know we're wrapping up here. You're a busy man. A couple more questions is, you got to tickle my fancy a little bit. Big Patriots fan. Obviously Belichick was your defensive coordinator. You got to have some Belichick stories.
The only Belichick story I have that I love to share is I'm a rookie, coming in. It's during training camp, and I'm throwing 7-on-7 for the starting defense. And Belichick, he's notorious for standing where the center, 7-on-7, you have no line or anything like that. So he would stand where the center would be, back to me, watching this defense and see how they would react. Well, they're running, the team that we're preparing for is running lots of crossing routes, short crossing routes. And so I take my drop back, crossing route, and they're telling me to throw to certain guys and that. So I come back and there's a crosser coming across, and man, I just let it rip. I hit Belichick in the back of the head. His papers goes flying. He goes down. He gets up. He's swearing at me. He's collecting his papers. He's yelling at me, this and that. And I yell back at him. I say, well, get out of the way if you want me to hit crossing routes. And that, for me, was the turning point where players kind of accepted me. The defensive guys, I don't know how many of them came up to me afterwards and said, hey, that was awesome. And so it was like, that story right there sort of helped me with the rest of the guys.
LT coming up to you and being like, thank you. I've been wanting to do that.
Oh, that was nice. That was nice.
Good job. And going to today's quarterback is, I'm sure that if you had the rules that were in place today, you probably could have played another 10 years with what you put your body through and everything. But, I made the Taysom Hill reference, of course, but I guess, and it could not even be necessary today, but more in this era is, what quarterback style play do you think represents yours?
Well, what I would have loved to have played was moving around the pocket. That was my
Russell Wilson type.
Yeah, it was these guys that are finding a lot of success being able to move the pocket, being able to ad lib. It was my style play, and then having that change from in high school to tailback gave me that ability to be able to run the football, to be able to move around, to make guys miss, to make things happen on the run. And that's what I would have loved to have done. But I went to Penn State. It was sitting in the pocket. You're prohibited from running outside of it. When I go to the Giants, it's the same thing. It's all pocket style. And it was just when you go to the Raiders, it's 7-step drop, throwing 25-yard comebacks. So the style that I would have loved to have played was more in the style that the guys are playing today.
Today's rolling out and being a little more protected. And finally, Jeff, I think, obviously people think of you as the football player, but you've talked about, all the adversity you faced in your life. I mean, all the adversity your kids have faced. And now we're in this beautiful resource center, which may be in the all grand thing of your actual purpose. Talk to us about this resource center. Talk to us about this beautiful children's hospital. How can people donate, and what can people do to give back?
Well, I'm blessed to be standing up here. I get chills. I'm up here all the time, and I get chills every time I come up. We've got a locker room theme up here. Having had 3 sons and almost lost all 3, my wife and I realized how difficult it is on our families and how they're torn apart, and that life continues to go on outside the hospital. You still have bills, you still have work, you still have other kids that you have to take care of, and yet you're trying to focus on your child that's in the hospital, and it's difficult. And so my wife and I, we wanted to start a place where our families could go and get away from it, not feel like they were in the hospital, not feel like they were stuffed in that little cubicle of a room. And we wanted to do it something that was completely different. And growing up as an athlete, I visited the hospital many times to see kids and see the smiles on their faces. What those kids never saw was the smile that they put on my face, and the power that me coming over to see them that they had on me. And so this is a no-brainer for me. This was join athletes and our kids and families together, and it's a win-win. And so the goal here was to join our West Virginia athletes, what it means to be a Mountaineer, to have these guys put some skin in the game, put their own finances in, and let's build this space out. Nothing like it in the country, nothing like it anywhere. And so we've got this great facility. We're going to be able to help our families with all different things. We've got a tutor on site. We've got a laundry. We've got a little dining room. We've got game rooms. We've got family rooms. We've got a 12-foot screen that comes down that we can have parties and Super Bowl parties and watch games and things like that and hold events in here. And so what our goal is to be able to join our athletes here at WVU with our families and put smiles back on their faces. Because if we can put a smile back on their face and make them forget about what's going on just for a second, we've accomplished an awful lot.
That's awesome. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. I had an absolute blast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a good one, everyone.